So we will go ahead and get started. And first and foremost, I would like to say good afternoon to all of you, my Ultimate Coach friends. It's truly an honor to be here with each of you as your host for our Ultimate Coach Roundtable discussion podcast. I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today in community for this truly uniquely gifted opportunity to be together in this roundtable discussion about being. We've all been blessed with the powerful and influential transformative book called The Ultimate Coach Book, or The Ultimate Coach, written by our dear Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. And the purpose of this call today is to open a conversation about being in a respectful and safe space to discuss the power of who we are being in this world and in our families. Many of us have experienced powerful shifts in our lives since opening the book and have since been blessed by this book. And today, we would like to open up this conversation with all of us coming from a place of honor and respect to all of us who are present in here today. The influence this book has had on many of our lives and the lives of the people that we love and in our families. And it will create impact in our futures for the rest of our lives. So this discussion will open up the powerful way that we can be the change in our lives and in the lives of our families and for those that we love. So today I'm honored to introduce to you our very special guest, Gary Mahler. Gary Mahler is an incredible husband, father, and coach, and we have been blessed with his time and his grace. And I'm honored to have him here with us today to share with us how his own personal shift in being has shifted since working with Steve Hardison and how it has impacted his life in every aspect, especially as a father, as a husband, and as a coach. So as a possibility, if this call has the potential to impact you and shift you or your way of being for the rest of your life, what do you need to do in this present moment to be fully present with us with limited to zero distractions? I would like all of us to take a brief moment to breathe and create the opportunity for yourself to be fully present here and now, to receive the gift that it is. Thank you. Thank you for being here and now. Gary, thank you so much for joining us and being with us today. Before you embark on your traveling journey shortly after our call, thank you for making those adjustments. I was honored to be introduced to Gary through the writing and reading of his document on a sidewalk, and it has been with me ever since. Thank you, Gary.
You're so welcome. Thank you for the beautiful invitation. And in the invitation, allowing me to be with you, and then later today fly to Oahu to see my mom and dad, who I haven't seen since August, my brother, who I haven't seen since before then. So it's just wonderful that because of the invitation, I get to stay a bit longer on this beautiful island of Kauai. So I just want to thank you, and just thank you for allowing a space that I can just see how life is possible in living with the full actuality of life, and allowing the divine to enter into life in the mundane and just everyday living, everyday interactions, and to not need anything more than this present moment, to be present to the moment and fully engage with the people we meet, fully engage with ourselves, so that there's never any in-between moments, but only the possibility of connection. I call it being forever back home. So thank you for just allowing me to just share how I see the world, so that we can find special in everyday life. It's like when I finish here, I'll have a bit of time that I can just go to the spa where I've gotten to know the gentlemen and just say goodbye to them. Yesterday, I saw Marcus, who I've been talking to daily, and he's just phenomenal. And he just said, I will miss you so much, and I can't wait till you come next year, because I've really loved just talking to you, and you listen to me. To me, that just touched me, and that's what I want to share, just something as simple as that. So thank you for allowing me to be here and just share how I see life and how I love my life and all of life, not just the good parts.
I love what you said, and especially in reference to create connection. You know, the power of being able to do that. Where would you say that connection has to start in order to be able to create connections with others?
Unless I'm connected with myself, and a part of me that is connected to something greater than myself, and I'm not particular in what people call it. Unless there's a connection, I'm forever in disconnect. And when things are going well, then it's really easy to connect with people. But I find for myself, when things would be not going well, that it was very easy to be impatient and have a disconnect. And that was the majority of my life until I started on this journey in the year 2000, and just have followed connection, coming home, coming forever back home. And I've just chosen peace and coming home. So for me, it's, if I'm connected with myself and to something greater than myself, I have a possibility of creating connection no matter what happens inside of me and outside of me.
Thank you for sharing that. Could you tell me what helps you anchor and create that connection with yourself when you feel shifted or triggered, or shifted or triggered?
For me, the practice of following my breath has been something I have been participating in since I first heard of it, through someone I fell in love with, just seeing him on a YouTube video, Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's a mindfulness teacher. And just as he spoke in these terms of actually being okay with the actuality of life, and just listening to him and saying, if I follow my breath, it's a tonic. I can see what's going on, what sensations are occurring in my body. And that's been very, very helpful. And the other thing has been the practice of self-forgiveness against the judgment that I had been heaping upon myself. So those two things create an open space for myself to connect with something greater than myself, and then actually have the ability within my document to create myself daily. In the morning, in the evening, I find myself wherever I'm at, just creating myself, using the whole document or using parts of it. And I start off my document with, I am infinite stillness, born of ease and flow. So for me, I used to believe the opposite of that. And that's the tonic. I just breathe in and I am infinite stillness, born of ease and flow. And that allows me to be present to what's going on within me and outside of me. And it creates a space. It creates a space for me to be at liberty to choose how I am being with what occurs. So while I'm here, I'm always in the ocean. Every day I'm in the ocean. And yesterday was a very big, rough day. Only 2 other people were out with me, and I body surf. So I have 2 fins and I've just got my board shorts, and it's cold. So I put on a rash guard, and the waves are all going like this and they are crashing, and there's red flags up. It's like, don't go in unless you know what's going on. And I just went in because I've been practicing for years. And I just dive through these huge waves. And then there is the waves coming in every direction. But in a moment, I just see and I go, what's going on? And I just take a breath, and then my fins just gently undulate, and I just am in the water, fully present to what's occurring. And beyond where the waves are crashing, I can be very, very still. And then when the waves come, I can choose to take the energy of the wave, and with a few strokes of my fins and a couple of these, I have the ride of my life. And that's a perfect metaphor to how I live my life. So in the midst of everything, I can see what's occurring. I follow the breath. My breath then calms me. And then from that place, I just choose the waves near me that I want to ride. And yesterday I had some amazing rides from outside into shore. And I'm so excited that I just go back diving into life, going out to where I go. So that's the perfect metaphor to how I live my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. For me, it brought up this mantra that I created. My home has been going under construction for the past, or construction repairs from hurricane damage for the past 5 years. And it's been what some might say a disruption, because there was no order. Everything was completely out of place. Nothing had its place. And so I came up with this mantra, and I called it my 7C rule: clear the clutter and chaos for clarity and creativity, so I can be calm and confident. All the chaos outside of me was also inside of me. And so it was very difficult to be able to just be present with what I wanted to do, because I kept telling myself, I need to do, I have to do, I should do, why haven't I? And so and with children, it's always constant, right? There's always something that we can be present to if we allow ourselves. And that really, that resonated with me through your story, that as the waves were crashing and as it was like chaos around you, when you were present with what you wanted to do and you came back to your breath, you could ride the wave with all of the chaos around you, but still with presence and enjoyment, and live through that wave confidently and cleansing almost.
It's funny because in that metaphor, I'm completely in the water. So completely within the hands of the creator, God, source, the universe. I call it capital IT, my connection. And even with everything going on, that trust in the ocean and trust in diving through and being in that, a sense of calm and playfulness prevails. And I'm completely enveloped. And I really believe that in what we shared, what I shared earlier from your beautiful question, in the breath and this self-forgiveness against the judgment, I'm completely enveloped. And then there's a possibility for creation that comes from outside of me, from that connection. So thank you so much for sharing. I can only imagine 5 years of living within constant repairs and just coming back to how to be with that, loving it, so to speak, and allowing it to occur and not having the disruption disrupt you. So it's just beautiful, and it really ties. I didn't let the roughness of the ocean disrupt me. I knew I had one last day here, and it was the day to go out, and it was one of my best days.
Where almost the universe could have prevented you, right? Because it was more rough and you could have made an excuse to not go because of the roughness, but yet you chose it and it served you so greatly.
And if it was too rough, I wouldn't go. There was some times, it's so funny, there was some times where I go to that beach, I've never seen it so rough, and there's a beach just 15 minutes that is less rough, and I could have gone there and I would have gone there if it was just too rough, but it was just perfect. And they were very large, and the ocean was rough, and it was so fun. But you're right, I wasn't going to let anything get in the way of that. Much like today, I could take a 10-minute, but it's just not what I want. I want to just be calm before I go traveling. So that's what I choose. So that's another part, being a choice and seeing what's occurring and creating from surrender, acceptance, and allowance, I call it, to what I just know. There's a knowing, like today it's just not for me. But yesterday there was a knowing. If it wasn't Shipwrecks Beach, I was going to Brennicke's Beach so that I could be in the water.
Gary, what guidance could you share with us for those of us that are navigating to create more balance and peace in our lives with the busyness in the world, or with the busyness in our lives? How do you create balance and peace in your life?
I love the question. What occurs to me immediately is I choose it as my number one priority. For me, I want peace. I want to be peaceful. And it's from the story I tell often of the year 2000 when I was in Nara, Japan, and I saw the Buddha, and I just said, I want that. And I didn't know how to get that, but I just followed. Because when I declared that, something heard me, and I had an internal shift to declare that I just want peace over being right, or over being correct, or over being righteous, or over being anything else. So I choose it. I choose it. I choose it. I see what's going on. So, I mean, with my wife and with my kids, there's so many reasons with the full catastrophe of life, like everything going on, to not be at peace. and I choose it. I wake up early before the day starts so I can have some alone time. I get a good amount of sleep so that I can be prepared, but I just choose. I choose that I love my wife. I say I love Kinchan, Koan, and Kona with all my might, and I lay down my life for them, and I forget. So I'm human, I'll forget. But I just go back to doing my job or my role. And I love my wife, my son, and daughter with all my might. So I haven't seen them since November 14th, but in my time away from them, I have been with them in my heart saying, who would I need to be to love them even more than the last time I saw them? Who would I need to be that even when I'm not there, they know I love them? Who would I need to be present with them so that if I don't see them for a period of time, I'm not lamenting that I'm not seeing them. No, because I'm so present with them when I'm there. They just feel this sense of peace. It's strange because yesterday Japan was playing Croatia, and we have on the lineup, the whole family talks, and then it was after breakfast. It was maybe an hour later than current time in Hawaii at 7 something. And I saw that they were watching the game at 2 a.m. in Japan, so I just FaceTimed them. My son is there at 2 a.m. and he's fresh and he's just like, hey, Daddy, how's it going? My wife's like, hey. I said, how's it going? I don't know it's tied. And then they're like, and he's like, Daddy, we're concentrating on the game. We'll talk to you later. And I said, okay, bye. And I was like, this is the best thing ever, that he's just like, okay, I love you and it's totally cool. I can't wait to see you. And it's like, to me, that's joy, that my wife and kids feel me so deeply that I don't need to be tethered, like wailing, oh my God, I'm not seeing them, but they're always there. And I just bring parts of them, their drawings and little things they made for my birthday in Japan, and I just have them and they're with me all the time. So it's created in my being. It's a choice. It's a choice. And if I'm at the effect of what's going on in my life, and I don't take the time and space for my connection with myself, franticness ensues, rushing ensues, things that come out of fear or neediness ensue. So this is where, to me, in the slowing down, it's not that I'm not working or I have work or not work. It's a matter of, from my being, I always know what to do and how to do it. And I just really come back to this connection to something greater than myself. And the more that I see, love is the glue that binds us together. And if I am loving in my being, de facto, every act that I do will be an act of love. And that's all that I want. All that I want in my work with Steve is to have the eyes of love that God has, that sparkle. And sometimes inside of me, there's not loving thoughts about people. And I want to love the part that is that, so that I send the eyes of love to that part so that I can be loving no matter what. That's why I hired Steve. When I saw him treat Amy years ago at Steve Chandler's ACS, it's like, I want that. The business and all that stuff, that's fine, but I want that. I want to be the guy that loves Amy, that says, he is there loving Amy so much, saying, how are you? Just loving everyone in the room. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And I said, I want that. I want to be that. So it was just the simplest of things, like, what's the next step? Who am I being today in service of what wants to emerge? And way back in 2015 or 14, whenever it was, all the things that I declared and wanted without a lot of effort, there was work, but it was play, created this life that I'm living with the relationship that I have with Steve as his client. And what's beautiful with Steve is he has a unique relationship with every one of his clients. He loves them for who they are. And I would venture to say everyone on this call or everyone in the group, he has a relationship with everyone and loves them in their unique way. That's beyond me, but I want that. I want to be that in my own way for the world, because if I am that, it allows people to be acknowledged and seen, for them to create their world from their own special way of being that is loving.
Thank you for sharing you with us. For me, the most impactful thing that I heard was that you decided what you wanted and you chose. And I feel like personally, my unique dynamic in my family, where my husband travels often, I have felt like a single parent. And there are many of us who have experienced being a single parent, possibly some of us on this call. And so when we feel that overload, or which potentially can lead to overwhelm or expectation, which then leads to judgment to our partners or to our children, because we're not taking care of ourselves because we're doing. And so I love what you said as far as even choosing how we create our partners, our children in that. And if we recognize that there is an expectation or a judgment in that moment, we can still choose what we want to create out of love. But if we don't have love for ourselves, or if we're not willing to have even self-forgiveness, then how can we expect ourselves to grow past that? In our call that was so impactful before this call together, one thing that you said to me that just so created such powerful impact for me is that you're in constant state of cleaning. You're in constant state of cleaning. Can you share more about that with us?
I'm always sensing what's occurring inside of me and outside of me. I'm always sensing what's going on in my breath, and I am seeing where there is a pattern or a loop or a program of something dismissive occurring, or something seeking fault within myself or situations. And I'm constantly seeing to be open to whatever trauma, wounding from my past that has me still having these things pop up. So instead of making it a problem, I'm just with the parts of me or what is going on, and I just offer them love. So it's a form of doing the work that Byron Katie does. I went to the 9-day school, and I just morph in without anything of needing to do anything other than, is it true? And not having to go any deeper, and just choose the thought that is probably equally as true, but helpful or loving. It's a form of ho'oponopono. I love you. I forgive you. Please forgive me. So all of these wrapped into one, where it's just like me being in the ocean, feeling the ocean around me. I'm just constantly seeing what is going on in here and here that is shooting energy all through my body. And how can I love it? It's like when Steve helped me with my daughter, when Cohen told Steve that she was shy, and we just created, I love you exactly the way you are. Don't ever change. And I did this. And if you would see my daughter now at 7, everyone just loves her. She is just alive and vibrant with all of life. And I did nothing other than love her when she was shy. And then Steve said, if people say she's shy, don't even repeat it. Just say, some people might say that, but she's my observant little Buddha, my little guru that has me see things. So what I do with myself is, I love you the way you are. Don't ever try to change. So for a child, I can say, don't ever change. To an adult, it sounds like, oh, just stay the same. No, don't ever try to change. Don't try to force something to be different. Allow what's there to be there. When it comes up, it's not a problem anymore. And over time, it becomes not a problem at all. And when there is something that pops up, I'm like, oh, there's still something inside there that I haven't looked at, but it's not a problem. So the cleaning is, it's like, who am I being? It's like, who am I choosing to be in this moment? Am I being frantic? Am I being impatient? And I can, in this slowing down of time or compressing time, I can see if I'm not being loving to my kids or my wife or myself. And in the slowing down, it's kind of like the Matrix. You see these things and the bullet comes. It's kind of like it's there, and I'm just moving out of harm's way, so to speak. But my whole life is just like, how am I being in this moment? Because this moment is the fabric that creates all of my life. So it doesn't matter if I want to build whatever business I want to do, or I want to get certain stuff. It's like, how am I being with me? How am I being with you? How am I being with the world? What judgments are occurring? So this is just how I see my life. Like, there's no difference between sitting here, what I'm going to do after this, or when I get into my Uber to get to the airport, or I see my mom and dad. And when stuff comes up that I don't like, I look at how I'm responding to it. But that's my cleaning. It's like, what's going on inside of me? What am I choosing? How am I being with me? How am I being with the world? And I don't judge myself, like saying I'm not making the mark. If I'm not, I just come back to presence and I clean. I forgive myself for the judgment that I've heaped upon myself, and then I can be loving. It's like, I want to live to 100, but I want to live to be 100 in this moment. Not for then, I want to live now. So this morning, I woke up early. I went to the gym to do some weights so that I can build and keep this body feeling good. I was on a call with a dear client. We did some amazing work. I love him so much. And then I went to the lounge and I just had my coffee, and I just met the ladies who are so gracious to be there. Like, Mr. Mahler, it's your last day. We're going to miss you. And I said, yeah, I'll be back. I'm going to have breakfast before I go. And I'm here. And then I'll do whatever is next. And then next to that, all within the idea of, how can I love my wife, son, and daughter more? How can I create value so much in the world that me and Steve created this. I get what I want without asking for it. And you'd be surprised that since we declared that together, how often I'm getting so much of what I want without asking for it. You would not believe it.
To me, that reiterates the power of conscious creation through our language and through our thoughts into creating what we want or what we don't want. And so when we can understand that we are in that constant state of creation, where's our focus? What are we listening to? Is it serving us into our best version of ourselves in order to be our best versions for our families and for the people and for the other people in the world that we have the opportunity to meet or bless or serve? So thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to take this opportunity to open it up to the community if they would like to ask you a question. So if you would like to ask Gary a question, please raise your electronic hand and I would love to call on you and for you to share with us and be with us here today. Excellent. Raphael?
I want to ask Gary, really I was going to say something, but you said questions. So I'm only going to ask a question to Gary. How do I get you or someone like you to understand how much I love you, even when I'm not with you?
You just did it now, and you do it every time you send me a message and tell me that, or send me you singing or your daughters or you being with your daughters and reiterating what an impact I had in your life when we just met. You were on and I were on and we just talked, and you have just taken a little bit of time with me and just created a life that is magnificent. Like, so there's not much more than you being you, sharing what you do. And on my part, I just receive it. So it's kind of like, I just see you come up and I know the connection, and it's never not there, even if I'm not thinking about it.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you ridiculously.
I know. Ditto.
I think you're up, Fiona.
Sorry, I was waiting for her to say something. Hi, nice to meet you, Gary. So you said that you chose peace as your priority, but about 20 years ago, you weren't like that. And I want to know, like, how do you deal with people who are coming to you with judgment from how you used to be and not kind of like they I suppose I kind of already know the answer to the question, but they don't like, how did you start in the beginning when you first made that choice, but you hadn't necessarily communicated it to other people and they were still judging you? How did you deal with that kind of situation?
I chose peace in the smallest of ways, and people started sensing something was different. So I ran a manufacturing company where we were always under the gun for on-time deliveries, providing quality products, providing service. I had many employees, and when everything was going well, I was really, really a nice guy. And when things were not, I was really not a very nice guy. I didn't have time for people. And the reason why I wasn't a nice guy is my ego was so big that any failed expectation or delivery would just send me reeling and then get me impatient or angry. And I think people pretty much noticed right away that, salesmen would come in and I would suddenly have time and they're like, what's going on with this guy? Or I would talk to them, or I would be differently. So, and it's funny because I do know a lot of the people, they still work at Mahler Industries, a lot of them, or they work in other places. And it's so funny because it seems like the asshole that I thought I wasn't that bad, because we have these conversations and they're like, no, you were heated at times, but especially at the end, we noticed a shift. And I had a huge falling out with my foreman. We had been together for years and he had to leave my company. And I never thought that I would ever talk to this human being again. And somehow when I was doing my coach training or something came up and I got a message from him. I don't know, I got in contact and I was crying because everything from that seemed to be forgiven. And since then, he's got a utterly fantastic, successful business doing what he wants. So there's something in that healing of me choosing peace that somehow transcends. So even if people would have judgment of me then, it really doesn't faze me because I'm not that anymore. And I guess my answer is you can think what you want. That doesn't determine if I will love you or not. So through all of this work, I teach my son, if people say things about you, and he'll say in a simpler way than this, but essentially what he says is, if you know who you are, people can't tell you about yourself. So what he picks up is, they can call you names, but if you know who you are, it really might hurt a bit, but it really doesn't affect it, who you are. So in a very simple way, he's getting it. So if I know who I am, there's nothing you can't tell me about myself, because I've already come full frontal in the mirror of it. It's kind of like when Byron Katie says, you're a murderer, and she goes, could be, I've had murderous thoughts. So, and I love that. I was reading that and it's like, man, you know, I used to love looking good, and now you can think what you want. I'm a fake, phony, this and that. I could care less. All I care about is how I am showing up in this seat, sharing, and how I'm being. It doesn't matter. My being, and I'm learning this from Steve, and this is like just what I want to learn the rest of my life, is to have the eyes of love. And I'll call it the eyes of God. And the two people closest to this that I've seen Steve's eyes sparkle. And I spent a short time with Byron Katie, short time, just coming from the restroom, and she was out. And she's like, I see you. I see you raising your hands. And I just looked in those eyes and I was like, I want that. I want that. I want that. So I choose it.
Thank you, Gary. That was so powerful for me. When I listen to that, it makes me be with my growth in honoring others' perspective and giving them permission to have their perspective, but not owning it as my truth if it doesn't sit in alignment with who I know I am and how I know I am. But rather than trying to fix it or change it, honoring them and giving them permission to have that, but still moving on and knowing who I am. And that has taken, and it's in a continued work in progress of growth. So thank you so much. Thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Tanya. Gary, thank you so much. I have this occurring of you, which is, I don't know that we've ever been on a call together before, but this is the first time I've noticed like the presence of Gary Mahler, the presence of you, the presence of the divine as expressed as you. Like there's this piece that I just feel that is quite remarkable. I felt it when I was with Steve. his has an intensity and an electricity that's about 3 million volts strong. And yours is as powerful, and yet it is so calming. The question I have for you is, you mentioned when you were in the ocean this morning and things were, the ocean was moving and you were moving with it. How do you cultivate that inside of you? Like, it occurs to me like you can't be with people the way you've been with us without having cultivated and developed and invested in being calmness in your own mind. And the question I have, basically, how have you developed that?
It's a beautiful question. So I'll give you the outer worldly of me in the water, and then the inner and outer worldly of me in the world. I have loved the ocean since I was young, and I have been in the ocean a long time. So I cultivate a familiarity with it. I watch it. I've surfed in it. I've surfed big waves in it, long boards, short boards. I've spent time with it. I spend time with my breath. I spend time watching the ocean. I spend time in the ocean without fins, with fins, so that when I go to the beach, I look at what's occurring, and before I go in, I see what I see. And I might not mentally, but I just have an idea of what's going on. I wait for the opportune time and I dive in, put on my fins. And yesterday was interesting because it was kind of like how life is for a lot of us, because the waves were coming all over the place. And I just am enveloped in that, sensing what was occurring. And there was a moment I was like, this is pretty big. There's 2 Hawaiians out, and they're only out when, that no other tourists are out in that water. And it's like, oh, so I take a breath, and then then it slows down. And then I just watch, and it's like waves are coming from all over the place. But as they're undulating, if the big ones are crashing near me, I dive deep. And if I dive deep, I'm completely safe. I dive through. Other ones come and I just go right over them. I use my fins to just go over them. And as I'm up, I look what's coming. So I'm present to everything. And the feeling of aliveness of that, of the coolness of everything occurring, is beyond imagine. So if we take that, before I start the day, I don't, I've got some guideposts, like this was on my agenda. I'm going to take an Uber in a couple of hours. I'm going to meet my parents at 1. But within that, I don't know what'll happen, but I'm just prepared for whatever I see. So that's me standing out. So I'm just prepared for, I don't know what'll happen, but I'm preparing my breath, who I'm being, that whatever occurs, I can be calm with it. I can just be this form, like this is how I love to operate. So there's a preparedness. And then as things occur that I don't like, I will dive through, much like diving through the waves. I'll dive right through that so it doesn't slam me. But it takes a presence. So it's a creation before bed. It's a creation in the morning. It's a creation of, I don't know what'll happen. I used to call it, I said, I'm pretty sure at least 50% of what's going to happen I won't like. So I prepare myself how to be with all of it. I follow the breath and I create who I am. And I just take, I am that I am unleashed. I am calm yet impactful as a velvet bullet. I just take that, and that's just how I live. I am dazzling, I'm charming, I'm smooth, I'm irresistible. I take that and then I bring that into the world. I'm forever at play. I live in the mystery. I create from the unknown. I take that into the world. I always know what to do and how to do it. I always know what to say and not what to say. I am unique, and I love that about me. So I just don't compare myself and what other people are doing on their journey. I bring that to my life. So there's not one part of who I am that I don't bring with me. I am goodness. I am goodness. I breathe into that all the times that I thought I was bad. I am goodness. I am that I am without fault or blame. I am impeccable in my being and in everything I do. And if I'm not, because I'm human, there's going to be times that I'm not. I just love that. And I love when Steve says, what are we going to do with me? So I bring that to people. It's like, you know, Kinchan, what are we going to do with me? You know, Cohen, what are we going to do with me? It's like my son has this story when we went to visit some friends in Squamish. It's outside of Vancouver. We went to Whistler coming back, so we see my wife's friends. There's a boy that grew up with Cohen named Alan. And this was a long time ago. And then he was playing with Alan's toys, and he took Alan's toys, and Alan freaked out. And Alan was going to go through the screen door, and then the father didn't have he would have fallen off. And like I kind of like I had to step in. My son always remembers, you were angry with me and it was Alan's fault. So he tells me this like regular, and I'm like, yes, that did happen. I'm sorry that happened. I did the best I could. And I just like, you can't tell me anything about me I didn't know. You're right. And you were acting in a way that I thought I needed to do this because it was getting out of hand. The whole house was feeling uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm sorry, and I love you. And when you treat your sister in a way kind of like that, I'm not going to get angry at you. We're going to work it out. And he's like, I'm so glad that you work with Steve, because when I was young, you were a lot more impatient. And you're just not that way now. So within what I'm sharing with you is, I see what occurs, I hear what occurs, and I just want for my kids to know how much I love them and that I'm not perfect and I love all parts of myself. So that's the inner, out in the water, that's here. I don't know what'll happen. There for sure will be stuff not to my liking. But instead of reacting from a place of anything other than love, I will love the parts that are worried, upset, nervous, and then be different. So hopefully that answers how I can be this way.
Thank you for that beautiful answer. My goodness. The power of presence and unconditional love in a constant state of flow, which creates the forgiveness and the self-forgiveness and the understanding, and also joy in the gift of the here and the now and the exploration of what that is. Because if we're too far in the past or too far in the present, we're missing out on the gift. So thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I want to honor our time, and I see that we have a few more hands. So Gary, how are we doing on time with you? I know you have a flight.
I got nothing but time because the flight's at noon, so I have to be there. My Uber's coming, let's see, it's 8. My Uber's coming close to 10, so I've got nothing but time.
So what I would like to ask is for all of our participants that would like to share or ask Gary a question, if you could keep your question as well stated as you can, so we can move along and honor our time and our space together. Ipek, you're next.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Gary. You are
Nice to
I-
see you.
Nice to see you too. I had been fortunate to have a one-on-one time with Gary, and every time I come together with him, it's so meditative. Like it has been like a meditation. Both Tanya and Gary, you are so peaceful and amazing. And I'm a meditation teacher, and I feel like I meditated for an hour right now. My question to you, Gary, I don't want to take too much time. Would it be possible for you kindly share with us your declaration, your I am statement in its entirety? Because I know it's so poetic and it's so amazing. I would love to get that from you.
Okay, I'll share it how it occurs to me now. So I'm not going to aim for perfection. I'll just aim for what's here now. I am infinite stillness, born of ease and flow, and I'm pure connection to the all-powerful, and I create what it wants. And I always get what I want without asking, because I do that. I'm generous and warm-hearted. I inhabit a life of freedom patiently and playfully. I am love, and coming from love, I am forgiveness and understanding to myself, especially all parts of myself, and to everyone I meet. I am free. I am free. I love, serve, and acknowledge and bless the person in front of me. No one is worthy of my judgment or cynicism, and within that also is included anger, judgment, self-righteousness. Because I create my universe in this way, I'm able to take empowered action, and I'm fearless, bold, and courageous. No matter what happens inside of me or outside of me, I remain unmoved and worry-free. Nothing moves or shakes me, even when I'm shaken and stirred. And I'm filled with joy, and I delight in all of life. It ain't nothing until I call it. I am selfless and power-filled in all I do. I'm magnificent and brilliant. I'm energetic and dynamic. I'm laser-like focused, and I'm sharp-minded. I am that I am unleashed. I am calm yet impactful as the velvet bullet. I am a grand master of discernment with the peace of mind and the freedom of heart to cut through all lies of lack and limitation, separation and suffering. I am that I am without complaint. I love all of life. I create from surrender, acceptance, and allowance. I'm healthy, strong, youthful in appearance, fit. I'm expansion. I am magnetic. I always know what to say, and I always know what not to say. I always know what to do and how to do it. I never compare, because I'm unique, and I love that about me. I am goodness. I am that I am without fault or blame. I am impeccable in who I am being and in all I do. I'm dazzling. I'm dashing. I am charming. I am smooth. I am immense. I am irresistible. I am impeccable. I live a life of integrity. I'm forever at play. I live in the mystery, and I create from the unknown. I love my wife, Kin-chan, with all my might. I love my son, Koan, more than I could ever imagine. I love my daughter so much for who she is. I lay my life down for them. And when I forget, I just go back to doing what it is that I was put on this earth for, is to love my wife, to support her, love my son, so that he can live life freely. Love my daughter so she could just be perfectly her. And just shine her light into the world. I am the best man, husband, father, and coach for the world. I am forever back home, and I help bring everyone I meet to a place of understanding of the possibility of being back home wherever they are. Life, I love you. I adore you. I thank you. That's who I am in this moment.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for sharing your declaration with us. Took me a moment to even speak because I'm just allowing it to flow through me and in me. Thank you. Rosie, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you. Gary, I heard a story that is on a podcast about you reaching out to Dave and telling him, you know, you need to, in so many words, you need to let me coach you. And so my question is, how do you show up when you have someone that close to you, whether it's a coach who's in a program with you or a very close friend or family member, and you just see that they need you? How did you show up so that he could hear you? Because there's like a line usually where, you know, where there's a fear to actually tell the person, but it sounds like when Dave says the story, you were just like, you're not living the best life, and I know I can help you create it. And now he's so thankful. How did you do that?
It's a beautiful question, and it's a relationship that was built over time where we were roommates at several ACSs. We were together with Melissa Blackford in a way of being over 2 years. We called ourselves the service team, and we created the service game, and we just kept playing it 90 days over 90 days. Dave came to one of my surf retreats that I used to do with Karen Perry called Into the Fire. We did a men's retreat in Hawaii, which was transformative. And there was still something that I saw, and I brought it to Steve, and I said, I need to share this. And Steve was matter of fact, and he said, just share it. This is what I love about Steve. There's no, what will he, just share it. And I shared it. And he broke down crying, and he said, that's something I need to do. So I took away all of the ideas about anything, and I just brought it to the place of a relationship with someone I love. And my whole idea about boundaries around friends or this and that, I don't know how many friends that I've coached over the years, and they've paid full fee. And I can thank Rich Litvin in a 90-day money game when I did not know very much and I was insecure as a coach. And in that game, I declared that I would be fearless And there were relationships in my life, friends that would just love to have wine with me and bring a nice bottle of wine, and we would do stuff. And I remember telling this woman, this isn't going to happen anymore. And she goes, why not? And I said, because you're good for 3 months and then you come back with the same problems. You need to hire me. And this wine thing, like, it's fun, but it's not good. And she goes, it's good for me. And I said, actually, it's not. You're getting a false sense of what it is that I do, and I'm not going to participate in it anymore. And if you ever go to my website, you can see the referral that she gave me. And if you want, I can give it to you so you can read what the impact of declaring, I don't do this fooling around anymore is. So whether it would be Dave, where I saw something, or I was just very clear. This is where, if I love, serve, and acknowledge someone, I take empowered action, whatever the action is that I see that it tells me to take, I'll just take it. So Rosie, that's how I am with it. And if there's nothing, I'm not afraid. And pretty much I will take as much time as it takes. I'm not in need of work. I'm booked out, and I really am particular about who I work with. Very particular, because there's a depth that I want in the relationships, in the work that I do. And I invited 3 people, and one of them's on this call. And I only invite that deep connection so the work that we could do would be otherworldly. And with everyone else, I will be loving. But when it comes to my work, it's really from the heart, where I want to ensure that my way of being gels so much with their way of being that their world transforms, their lives transform, and what they create is created. But I will never do it the other way around. I'm not going to work on something in order to get somewhere. And Steve, I don't want to hone in, that's what you do, but that's what resonated. It doesn't matter to me. I got 40 something years left. I'm not going to do stuff that I don't want to do, even though it technically might get me what I want. I'm going to follow what it wants me to do. And I always get what I want, often without asking. So hopefully that answers it, Rosie.
Based on that, I just want to say one sentence.
Yeah.
When I see you Saturday, January 15th, I will be with my brother, George, and I don't know how he will be served, but I'm also going to ask Steve, which I will email him later. My brother will be with me, and we will see what is created. So thank you. That was a beautiful answer. And what I heard, what came very quickly was, it's a relationship. It's the right time at the relationship when trust is built. And when you know that God is telling you that needs to be created, and then fearlessly going in and just saying, this is what I see, and then allowing whatever after that. Thank you so much.
It's beautifully put.
Thank you so much, Rosie, for that beautiful question. And thank you, Gary, for also sharing with us the 90-day service game. That is something that how I started, and continues to be in service without expectation, but truly being and coming from a place of love and service. So thank you for sharing that with us. Allison, do you have a question? And Allison will be our last question. And then I would like to invite Steve, if you would like to share something with us. Allison?
Yes, thank you so much. I apologize, I don't have my camera on, but I've really enjoyed this. So thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate your time. And my quick question is, you mentioned something about you made a choice to go into the water. And even though there were red flags, you trusted that that was the right choice for you. And I just wanted to talk how important that is, to really trust that even though, let's say, the world says it's dangerous or fearful, that you checked in with you. And I feel like, can you speak to that? Like how important that is?
Oh, definitely. And there's never a red flag not up in front of this beach, shipwrecks, and just in front of where I stay. The red flags are always up because they want people to know this is dangerous unless you know what you're doing. And even within that, there's degrees of danger. So I had been going in for 5 days, and then I don't know what happened, but there was a time a few weeks back where it was completely like, I'm not going in that. So like, I just knew I'm not going in that. It's not what I want. It's not what it wants. And so funny, that's when the first time ever I brought a client and we went to Brennickey's Beach, it was fantastic because it was huge here, but it was like kind of big there, but it was just perfect. But this trust beyond myself is the thing that I'm talking about. It's a knowing that I come back to. It's like the knowing, Tanya, when we were talking and I just said, oh, I'm going to change my flight. And you said, oh, like, you're not in yet. We have to decide who's next. And I said, oh, fine. If not, then I'll be on the call or I'll do whatever. But it's just this trust. And it's something beyond myself. And I learned this from my parents. They trusted. We grew up very poor and they just trusted and they just did. What I learned from them was you just do what's in front of you and you don't think too much about anything other than doing what's in front of you. And I don't really put too much credence in anything else. I'm just kind of like, what's in front of me? What's calling me? What do I want? Who am I being in service of what wants to emerge next month, next year? And I create the relationships, and then they, it's seed fruit, as Steve says. I read over my notes, seed fruit. Whatever your seed is, that's your fruit. So I just take a look, and who knows, like maybe if I look outside, I might be tempted for a 10-minute. So I don't know yet. Like I might be out there after this. Could be.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome question.
The most powerful thing that's still stuck within my brain right now is the seed you plant is the fruit you bear. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for that. I live it.
Steve, I would like to invite you to share with us if you would like to.
I would like to first acknowledge you, Tanya, for putting this together and the people that have helped you, the way in which you create the space that this can be as it is. It's beautiful. And I'd like to acknowledge Gary for how much I love him. And what I want you to know about Gary as a human being is I'm not sure that anyone prepares as much to be with me as Gary does. In our experience over years, and we have agreements into the future. I'm not saying everyone should do this. I'm just letting you see what different levels of preparation can be. He will typically come down a day before we meet. We meet for 2 hours and he stays a day after to process things. So it's interesting communicating with Gary. He'll send me ideas, things he's working with, and he's thinking through it. It's like he is mastering what it is to be. And I say this many times, that the ultimate experience is being, because that's who each of us have. That's this common denominator. We're all a being, and what we choose to do is that being is pure creation. You can be happy, you can be angry, you can be helpful, you can be curt, you can be thoughtful. So as a possibility, the ultimate experience is being, and Gary's taking this whole world around, creating who he's going to be. And you see, he doesn't do it in a casual way, because someone who's casually creating who they're going to be going to have a casual outcome, and that's okay, casual, but he's like a focused way of being. And then not only that is the ultimate state of the ultimate experience being, but the ultimate state of that being is love. So we have all these different ways we can choose to be, and you can hear in who he's being and where he's coming from is love. And you get, and each of us could choose the same amount of way we want to be in love as anyone else. Gary, me, anybody on the planet. Nobody has the corner to being, and no one has the corner to love, because both of them are mountains without a top. And then, as evidenced by you, Tanya, and other people here that do things like you and Gary do, these are possibilities. I don't know the truth about them, but the possibility is that the literal ultimate state of love, the ultimate action that comes out of love, is service. So if I can understand that I have access to my state of being, that the ultimate state of that state of being is love, and then the ultimate thing out of love is action. Love is not sitting around chanting Kumbaya, my Lord. It is so action oriented to serve whatever's in front. And Gary is a master at that. And he understands it's a mountain without a top. So there's not some arrival point, and he's whole and complete. So you can sit in that space coming from that, whether, and I say, and Gary's a master at this, the practice, it's like my practice today is being who I declared myself to be. The first practice is my next text. The next practice is my next email. The next practice is the person who knocks on the door. The next practice is the accident I get in. I spend my entire day practicing who I'm being. Gary is masterful at doing that. He prepares who he's being. He's amazing, as you can just experience. But let me tell you something. No one in my voice range, here or a recorded voice, does not have the capacity to master who they're being. That is where you are a God with the small g of the created life you have. He just happens to be a master at doing it. Thank you, Tanya, for your time. Thank you for letting me speak. And I'm really glad I was here today. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's truly an honor that you joined us all. And Gary, I want to send you a sincere thank you for creating the opportunity with me and all of us to be here and love us and serve us the way you have so unconditionally through your way of being. So thank you. Thank you sincerely.
You're so welcome, and it's easy. It's just a pleasure. Like I'd have to pinch myself to think that I would be able to just share simple things that might have an impact, that could have whoever listens to this come home to themselves and choose love and choose being loving. And then from that, just be themselves in a way that they couldn't have been beforehand. And the world is so much richer. So like it was a pleasure and a delight, and it's a beautiful way of completing my time here since November 14th, before I spend the next month with my family, immediate and extended. So thank you for the invitation. I'm so glad that it told me to say yes and move my flight.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And blessings to you on your journey as you transition into being in community with them, as well as your parents. So absolutely. I would like to thank everyone that joined us today. It's truly been a blessing as well for you to be here with us and to receive these gifts that were shared. And I would like to ask you, if you have found impact, or if you have felt value and impact from this call, please share with us in our Facebook group, because the power of our sharing also creates amazing impact through our community and our ways of being. And I'm honored to be here with all of you. So thank you. Thank you. Everybody have a wonderful, blessed day. If you would like to take yourself off of mute.
Loving you all. Be blessed. Loving you all.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
Love you, Steve.
Love you, Gary.
Trevor,
Have a great
loving
trip.
you,
everybody.
Myra,
Loving you
Vlado,
all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Felix,
Harry.
my
Thank
love,
you,
Bye.
Eva.
So much.
Jeremy,
Thank
Mika,
you, Ken.
thank you so much,
Radiker,
Thank you,
and Mark,
Andrea.
Rosie.
and Andrea,
Thank you,
Bye,
Trevor.
butterfly.
Bafal,
Thank
Bye,
you.
Allison.
Tanya,
Dave.
thank you.
Rosie.
Later, Gary.
Gary, I
Thank you,
love you, my
Epet,
brother.
for
Gonna
your
reach out and
silent
touch
meditation.
sometime.
I see you.
Ho'oponopono.
Bye-bye now.
Deal.
Teresa.
Bye-bye.
Mind your business.
Love you, Gary. Bye-bye.
Yes,
Love you.
ma'am.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.